somebody that we know, but I think it's really important to ask those direct questions. Um, you know, communicate our concern for them and our support and our love for them. And I mean, it can be as simple and direct a question as I'm really concerned. Are you thinking of taking your life? That might shock some people because they might feel like, oh, I would never ask that. But I think it's really, really important to be willing to be bold and ask that question.
Absolutely. Which brings me to my next one that I want to ask you.
Sure.
And this is a learning tool for us listening in.
Hmm.
What kind of questions can we ask someone if you or we are worried about someone's mental health?
Well, let me just give you a few that I use on occasion with people as I'm walking alongside of them. Um, I think I would say something like, you know how much I care about you, and we're good friends, but I'm really concerned that something's different, and I'm concerned that you are thinking of harming yourself. Am I right there? Is that true? Tell me what thoughts you've had about that. I mean, I would kind of have a little conversation about that. I would ask direct questions, very specifically direct questions like that. I've noticed that you've kind of isolated yourself from all the rest of us who love you, and you've given away a lot of things that really mean a lot to you. That concerns me. Are you thinking you won't be here long? Are you planning to harm yourself in some way? Are you actually thinking of taking your life? For people who are not used, Brandon, to asking those direct questions, that might seem way out of the box or incredibly bold. But what you need to realize is, as the one who is the caregiver or the friend or the one walking alongside, you need to be the one to ask those very direct questions. We need to take their plans and threats very seriously. We can't take the risk that we might be wrong, and so we don't ask anything. And what if we are wrong? What if they make that decision and end their life and we haven't asked the direct question? It's really important.
Right. One of the things I asked my roommate, we have discussions about preaching the gospel to people all the time, and
Mm,
those who blatantly don't accept or don't want to hear anything about Jesus Christ, and my
mm,
roommate will say, "I've done all that I can do,"
mm,
and this person, and he says in his eyes is probably damned for hell. And I
mm,
always follow up with, "Are you sure you have done all you can do?" And he's
mm,
like, "Yes." I'm like, "Are you really, really sure?" He's like,
mm.
"What are you getting at?" Yes. I'm like, prayer.
Yeah,
Okay. You have to pray
yeah,
for and this goes for suicidal people too. Pray for the
yeah,
person going through the suicidal tendencies or the depression. Pray for
yeah,
yourself that God would sustain you to be able to handle all the baggage they bring to the conversation that you're trying to bring out of them.
yeah.
Because, we can't be the burden bearers, because that's Christ's job and he's done that for us already.
Right.
But we can definitely be the tool that God uses to dig out that garbage,
Yes,
and
exactly.
bring it to him. And that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And how can we provide help after we, ask those questions? And it's very simple. Number one, do not be non-judgmental. You said that almost throughout all the episodes. You know,
Yes.
we got to treat our friends' problems seriously. You said that too. So
Yeah.
I'm all about not being judgmental. That's
Yes.
that's not my MO anyway. If I'm
Yeah.
gonna be judgmental, it's gonna be toward myself because I'm my worst critic. But you know how
Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah. I know. And one thing, just an instance, this happened some time ago. Um, I had somebody on the phone, and I got a sense that um, they were definitely planning to take their life. And I didn't know them real well. They had called in and to my office. And so I was talking to them, and I thought, wow, this is going somewhere really serious. This may end in this person taking their life. So I just wouldn't let them off the phone. And I got the attention of my assistant, who went to another phone and actually called the police to have some come and do a wellness check. That sounds pretty drastic, but we need to be really careful. Get them help regardless,
Yeah.
whether they want the help or not. And I mentioned this before, better to have them mad at us than dead. And
Right.
so it's really important that we not give up.
And we do that in law enforcement here in Louisiana. Someone to
Sure,
call, hey, I'm
sure.
worried about so and so. Can you go check on them? And
Yeah,
like, for example, if they live in the area of the
mm,
person they're calling about,
yeah,
I like to take it a step further and say, show up before we get there.
yeah,
And
yes.
and this is why. And I get frustrated when people call this in about a family member they're worried about. And my
Mm,
question is, have you made the attempt to make contact with them?
yes.
Or you just calling because you haven't heard from them and they made a
Mm,
statement a week ago?
mm, yeah,
So I'm like, okay, I'm glad you're calling it in. Don't get me wrong. I want you to do that. But be on scene before the cops get there, because it's going to be easier for us to help this person because a family member is there than it is for a
absolutely.
cop showing up. And the person can be, I'm not
Mm,
suicidal. And they can put
mm,
on a great show for us.
yeah,
But we only going to know the truth if it's a family member on scene that can
right.
actually look at that person and say, you made this comment. And then they begin to argue. And
Yeah.
when that happens, I know, this is just
Mm,
me speaking, I know that,
mm,
okay, that statement is probably true.
mm,
Let me listen closely, because
yeah.
one of two things can happen. It could be a true statement and I need to take action, or
Mm,
the family member that called this complaint in is trying to sabotage or harass the
mm,
family member they're calling about.
mm,
So then I have to, like, train myself. Hey, is this real? Should I take action? Look, let's call an ambulance just in case. You don't have to go with them because you can refuse,
sure,
and we'll go from there. But
sure.
if it's true, and the person says yes, I want to, end my life, then I'm doing
Yeah,
one thing. I am stepping in that doorway and pushing them
yeah,
outside to where they cannot go back in the house, closing the
yeah,
door, and I'll either detain them, call for backup until an ambulance gets there.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I'd
You
rather
bet.
get reprimanded for pushing somebody than having them take their life in front of me.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
You know,
Oh, for sure.
so the way we provide help all depends on how we execute the help we're trying to provide.
Yes, for sure.
So,
Yes, I agree.
well, that concludes this short segment of recognizing the signs. And guys, I got to tell you, pay more attention to your surroundings.
Mm,
Pay more attention to the people around you, because you never know what they're going through. And if you don't pay attention and pick it up quickly, it's going to be too late. And then, you're going to be stuck with, well, what if I would have, or I should have, or I could have? Well, at that point, it's too late. But just because, if it happened to you and the person took their life and you didn't do anything, there is still hope, and there's still time for you to redeem yourself and help the next person. That's my take on that. Anything you'd like to add, Ms. Barb?
I think you've concluded it well. Make sure that if you sense at all that someone is considering harming themselves, you do not leave them alone. You listen well, you ask the tough questions, and you get them help.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my call to action for my listeners, again, I'm going to urge you to, participate in this giveaway, get a free copy of this book. This is not just a journal of how Kathy took her life. This is also an instructional manual on how to help people. I have a copy of this in my personal library. And I go to this book every now and again when I have questions. And something that I can actually do from this book for law enforcement is make a suicidal checklist. Okay. And it's a checklist of when I get on scene, do I observe this? Do I observe that? If I observe A, then I must do B. Or if I get on scene and I observe C, then I have to go and do A to get to, B. So I'm going to be working on that kind of checklist to kind of help law enforcement, make better judgment on suicidal patients, if you will. So, Ms. Barb, thank you for producing such great work and taking up the gauntlet, if you will, and having to read your niece's suicidal letter over and over while preparing this book. You are a godsend. Thank you so much for, being that bearer of, of suicide, if you will. Not many people want to talk about this.
I know.
And it's depressing, ironically, that nobody wants to talk about it, but instead we bottle this stuff up.
Yeah.
And then it's too late.
Thank you for your kind thoughts, Brandon, and thank you for your heart.
Yeah, I care.
Thank you for your caring heart.
I care. This is something I care about. I'd hate to lose someone else, to suicide. I've lost a couple of friends to it, and it's not fun. And it's not an easy task.
It is not.
So, listeners, remember, let's walk together with those who are suffering. Let's suffer in their pain. Let's curl up and be next to them when they're needed. When it feels like they're flying and they're going to go off the handle, fly with them and try to slow them down. Or if it feels like they're walking too fast and they're walking right into the decision that they want to make, walk alongside them and try to steer them in another direction. Or if they're just crawling to that decision, crawl with them and try to make them go in another direction. Do something. Doing something always helps. Never do nothing. Everyone's life matters. Ms. Barb, thank you so much for your help.
Thank you, Brandon, very much. God bless you.
God bless.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? You see, when I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. I mean, a lot of questions. Questions like, how do I record an episode? Or how do I get my show into all the apps that people use to listen to podcasts? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it is completely 100% free and super easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that is exactly what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. So if you always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to Anchor. Go to anchor.fm/start and join me in a diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I cannot wait to hear your podcast.
Greetings, this is Steve Selyards, the author of The GA Junkie, and here are some Presbyterian history notes for the week of September 15th. Sunday, September 15th. Thomas Rice Welch was born on this day in 1825. He was a pastor in Kentucky and Arkansas, notably at First Presbyterian Church of Little Rock. He was one of the organizers and the first president of the board of Arkansas College, later named Lyon College, a position he held to his death. He was the moderator of the 1872 PCUS General Assembly. Monday, September 16th. On this day in 1901, the PCUSA began ministry training in Spanish in a rented facility associated with the Menull School in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Tuesday, September 17th. In 1851, William Anderson McDowell died. He was a pastor in New Jersey and South Carolina, and served as the secretary of the Board of Domestic Missions. He was the moderator of the 1833 PCUSA General Assembly. Wednesday, September 18th. Clarence E. McCartney was born on this day in 1879. He was the son of a pastor in the Reformed Presbyterian Church of North America, but trained at Princeton and was ordained in the PCUSA.